Shalom, and you're now locked in here at Israelite Talk TV, where you get nothing but the raw and the real whenever I'm in front of the camera. So make sure y'all show the page some love, like, subscribe, and share. Shalom, 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 and welcome back to another episode here at Israelite Talk TV, one of the #1 platforms. We don't get no paid media. Okay, thank you. The family, you see the title, that's right. Today we're going to be talking about Robert F. Smith, right? And how he became the richest black man in America, okay? Now, Robert Smith file just came across my desk the other day, and shout out to everybody that be sending me stuff. Once again, as I said, if you got topics and stuff you guys want me to talk about, just email me, send it to me, or leave a comment on the video, and then I'll pick that up and I'll talk about it, right? But the story is very interesting, right? And this is why we got to talk about it, because it's a story where a lot of times we're coming from a place where we look up to the rappers and the entertainers and we think like this is the way, right? And yet we have a guy, right, that is a tycoon investor, right, that pretty much turned nothing into something, right, and became, the richest black man in America as we speak today. Now, the story got some twists and turns. Some people feel a certain particular way because he got caught up in this tax evasion scheme, which we're going to talk about here in this video today. But I'm going to go through all of this information, and then I'm going to give you guys my own commentary on how I feel about this entire situation, right? Now, Steve Harvey, right? And let me get Steve Harvey. Let me get him added to the scene real quick. So Steve Harvey had an opportunity to meet with this guy, right, a while back. And listen to what Steve Harvey had to say in regards to Robert F. Smith.
I went to Robert Smith's house and tell you his quick story, the billionaire. And the story is you got 30 minutes. No one gets more than 30 minutes of his time.
So this guy is so rich. And not only is he so rich, he's so much of a mastermind, which I'm going to be breaking down here in a little bit. But he's so much of a mastermind that he does not have time to just entertain, idle chatter. So like Steve Harvey is saying, 30 minutes. Okay, you get 30 minutes with him, and he's getting ready to get on his jet, and he's going out here to go visit this man for 30 minutes.
Period. I was told that. I done got a jet on a flew to Austin to his house. Cool, for 30 minutes, man. Do you know how bad I wanted to sit with this man to get a jet and go somewhere for 30-minute meeting? I was at Robert Smith's house for 7 hours. Wow. I was leaving his house, and I asked the lady who runs it, I said, can I ask you a question? I said, I was expecting to leave in 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I said, why was I in this man's house for 7 hours? She said, you know why, Steve? She said, because you're the first person that sat with him for 20 minutes and ain't asking for no money.
See, so right there, that tells us that people that have money and things like that, they get tired of people asking them for funds every day. Hey, man, can I get this? Or what about this business deal? So when they run into people that's genuine, that's not out for money, that's just out for the game, they don't mind sitting there and chopping it up with them, right? Okay. So we're getting ready to get into this live. But before we get into this video, make sure y'all like the video. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. And make sure y'all share this video, man, because our people going to want to hear this story about this guy, Robert F. Smith, because like I said, I didn't even know anything about him until just recently, right? So make sure you guys get this out there, and let's get into it. Also, let me say this. I wanted the weather a little bit. The weather is changing up here. So my allergies, you might hear me sniffling, but just bear with me, right? Because I got to get this out, right? I got to get this done. You know what I'm saying? So now, let's get him removed from the screen, right? And let's get Mr. Robert Smith pulled up here, right? Let's get him in the queue. To be on this side right here. But okay, anyway, Robert Smith is, as we speak today, he is worth over 9.2 billion, right? And he also has, just so you guys know, we're gonna go through some of this. He founded a private equity firm by the name of Vista Equities Partners back in 2000, right? And he has assets with this business of over 96 billion, right? So the company has over 96 billion in assets, right? And pretty much what they manage is software companies and things like that, right? And it tells us that Vista is one of the best performing private equity firms, posting annual returns of 31% since its inception. Okay. This boy right here, Robert Smith, is a bad boy. Okay. Bad boy, right? Okay. Now, back in 2020, okay, uh, Smith entered into agreement with the Department of Justice and IRS, agreeing to pay 139 million for his role in a tax evasion scheme. And this is what we're going to get into. A lot of people got a lot of mixed reactions, mixed opinions on this particular tax evasion thing that went down. But we're going to dissect it, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on it. Once I give you guys all the information, right? Now, just to give you guys some information on Robert Smith, right? He did go to Cornell University, right, and he retired. The thing that's interesting is that he didn't really come from a background where his family had money, like like were rich and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So he went to Cornell. He graduated. He did some work in between before he got with Kraft General Foods, where he was a chemical engineer, right? Now there, he registered 2 United States and 2 European patents, right? So this goes to tell you how smart this guy is, right? Also, right, um, after he did that, right, around 1994, and if you guys go, and I believe it's Earn at Your Leisure, right? You can go. They did an interview with him, I believe, like a year ago. If you guys haven't saw that, go ahead and check that out, where he kind of give you, his background information, coming up, things like that. But anyway, from 94 to 2000, this is where everything started at, right? Because he worked for Goldman Sachs. And so during this time period when he worked with Goldman Sachs, he had a client by the name of Robert Brockman, right? Now, Robert Brockman, okay, as we're going to get to here in a little bit, was a billionaire already, right? And he was so impressed with Robert Smith, right? And his knowledge and the things that he, had going on, that he said, you know what? You go ahead and sell. I mean, not sell, but he told Robert Smith to basically to go ahead and leave Goldman Sachs, okay, and basically start his own company, right? And that he would give him the money to do it, which he pledged $1 billion, right? So back in 2000, this guy Robert Brockman was already a billionaire, right? And he put up $1 billion back in 2000. Now, this is interesting because when we look at today's times, we look at some of our rappers and our entertainers, and these are the people that we look up to. And, we like, oh, well, this person got a billion, couple billion, but these guys already back in the early 2000s was already counting billions, okay? Just to show you how far of a lead that Europeans have on blacks. You know what I'm saying? So he tells him, I'm going to give you $1 billion of money to back this company, you know what I'm saying? But there's a trick to it, right? Robert Smith would have to do what Robert Brockman did, right? And so Robert Brockman dad set up this trust, you know what I'm saying, through these offshore accounts overseas, right? And so he basically told Robert Smith that he would basically have to set everything up, because basically what was going to happen was he was basically showing Robert Smith how they pretty much made all of this money, and then they funneled it through this trust and things, and they basically was taking money tax free. Okay, so all this money they was getting from 2000 to 2020, excuse me, from the 2000s to 2020 is where they was pretty much getting all this money tax free. They didn't pay no taxes on it, right? Okay, so how did this whole thing get blew up, right? Well, it all boils down to what? Women, okay? Women, right? Now, Robert Smith, right, okay, was married to his first wife for over 25 years, right? And let me get her pulled up. Okay. Now her name, and you guys can go to her IG. She's on IG, but her name is Susan McFadden, right? And this is Robert Smith's first wife. She's what we would call mulatto. Her father was black from Jamaica, okay, and her mother was white from the UK, right? So when her father left Jamaica, I believe it was for the labor shortages and things like that. He went to the UK, and that's where he met Suzanne's mother, and he was married, had children. I believe they was married. Okay, but if not, stand to be corrected. But this is Susan right here, right? Okay, this is Susan right here, right? His first wife right here, right? So, so basically, they would divorce back in 2014, and then he would go on to marry Hope, right? Now, who is Hope? Okay, who is Hope? Hope was the 2010 Playmate. She was a Playboy model, right? Okay, so back in 2015, right? Tech investor Robert Smith, the founder of CEO of Vista Equity Partners, married Hope the War Oxy, and I know I ain't pronouncing that correctly, but I apologize, right? Uh Playboy's 2010 Playmate of the Year, right? Okay, so now let's talk about this real quick, right? And I want to get off subject for a minute, right? Because I'm going to be doing some on this. I don't want to get too far off of this, but when you look at a lot of our top elite black men here in America, right? A lot of these guys are married to white women, right? Which I have a problem with, right? And people say, oh, well, people, they can love whoever they love and marry, whatever the case may be, right? But anytime you see people like the Derrick Roses, the Robert F. Smiths, right? If you ever sit down and you listen to them, they know about the black struggle, they know about all of these things, but yet they still turned around and they go marry white people, right? Or white women, right? Now, here's the deal with this, right? People got to understand and get out of this lovey-dovey and all of this. Marriage is a business contract. This is how wealth is transferred. Some of the richest families run this earth, okay, is what you guys got to understand, okay? And the powerful families, they marry into one another in order to keep that money in there and continue to conquer. So what you got to understand is that when they go and they marry white women, you have to understand that when they part ways, whether it's via divorce or via death, that money is going back into those different communities of where those people are from. You see what I'm saying? When they're married, of course, they're going to give, because you have to give in marriage, right? You coming from a certain background, when you're in an interracial marriage, right? You come from a certain background, I come from a certain background. So there's certain things you're going to have to give in. There's going to be certain things that white people do that you're going to have to conform to. And there's going to be certain things that black people do that you're going to have to conform to, because these are your roots, this your people, right? And so in marriage, people are going to do certain things, but when they're not married anymore, they're going to go back to their own culture and do what they're doing. This is why Vanessa Bryant was receiving some backlash over the school, was the school that they got for Kobe and Gigi, because it wasn't no HBCUs back in it, and Kobe come from the black community. You know what I'm saying? He's an Israelite. So at the end of the day, this is what happens. And when these people divorce, that money goes back to their. So you got different levels of slave handlers, okay? Different handlers, you know what I'm saying, that's put in position to make sure that that money never gets back into the community, right? But like I said, I don't want to get too far off into that, but he married Hope, okay? They have kids and, things like that. They're married today, right? As we speak. Now, this is how the whole thing get blew up, right? Okay, so right here, right? Let's get this pulled up. So right here, right, it's an article, and you guys can go to the New York Post, but it speaks about tax cheat Robert F. Smith bought rent, ski condos, nightclubs with hidden money. So right here, it goes to bring out how billionaire Robert F. Smith put his girlfriend up in a Manhattan apartment and bought expensive homes in California, Colorado, and France with untaxed income, according to a leaked court document that offers a glimpse into the private equity honcho's illicit spending. Okay. So basically what happened is when him and the wife split and part ways in 2014, right? She brought up all this information of, basically why they were divorced. And you guys can go pull those records up for the divorce, the indictment, and all of that stuff. It's all in there, right? The wife pretty much blew the top on everything and basically was like, this is why we getting divorced. He had this woman up here, all this stuff, and it was paid through his business. So then when the IRS and all these people start to look into the case, they're like, oh wow, y'all ain't been paying here. Woo, woo, woo. So then it triggers this big investigation, right? And so what happens is, right, is let's see here. So what happens is they trigger this big investigation, right? They bring Robert Smith in, right? And Robert Smith has to work a deal with the Department of Justice and the IRS in order to not be prosecuted, basically. Okay. And let's pull this up right here. Okay. So right here, the article goes to bring out, right? Let me get this highlighted. In August of 2020, Bloomberg reported that Smith was facing tax inquiry regarding a potential failure to pay U.S. taxes on $200 million in assets intended for U.S. charities that were transferred through offshore entities. In October 2020, Smith reached a non-prosecution agreement with the United States Department of Justice, agreeing to pay a fine of $139 million. This agreement came alongside Smith agreeing to assist the Department of Justice in creating a separate case against Robert T. Brockman, who had been charged with hiding $2 billion in income. According to the Department of Justice, Brockman, the backer of Smith's first private equity fund, led him to use off the offshore trust that concealed income. Okay, so this is Robert Smith, right? Okay, uh, in an article back in 2022, right? Because typically, now they saying that they believed he committed suicide, and this is typically what happened with a lot of these Europeans, and I just hate to say it, they typically, when the pressure's on like this, they typically commit suicide, right? Because they don't want to dance to the beat. And I believe, and I stand to be corrected, that it was the same thing with the lawyer that set up this fund, right, for them, right? He also they went to prosecute him after that, and I believe he also committed suicide, right? But like I said, I stand to be corrected on that, and that's, of course, that's allegedly, right? Because that's what was came across my radar. But now listen to this, right? So it says billionaire Robert Brockman, who was indicted in 2020 in what has been called the largest ever tax evasion case against an individual in the U.S., has died at 81. So this dude right here, he was a mastermind at moving money. Okay. Uh, his father had set up, his father had set up these offshore accounts and basically gave him the game. And then once he learned it, they funneled all this money in there from 2000 up to 2020, where they was not paying any taxes on all this money, right? Okay. So even with that being said, we don't know. I mean, shit, Robert Smith could have way more money than that. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? What they did with, the money that was coming in. You know what I'm saying? So listen, his attorneys had been arguing in court that he had dementia and was incompetent to stand trial, right? But a judge in May ruled him competent and set a February trial date. So basically he tried to say that he had dementia, was incompetent to stand trial, and basically tried to get out of it. Once he couldn't get out of that and he had to go to trial, he basically they're saying that he deleted himself, right? Now listen to this, right? Brockman, a Florida native and Houston resident whose fortune Forbes has estimated at 4.7 billion, was the former CEO of Reynolds and Reynolds, an Ohio-based software company that provides solutions to business. Okay. In 2020, the government charged him in a 39-count indictment with evaded taxes on $2 billion in gains, wire fraud, money laundering, and other offenses. He pled not guilty. Okay. It says, now listen to this. It says David L. Anderson, the U.S. Attorney of the Northern District of California, said at the time that the allegations of a 2 billion tax fraud is the largest ever tax charge against an individual in the US. Okay. Uh so yeah, so anyway, he will go on to die, and it will go on to say that prosecutor says he used ill-gotten gains to buy a Colorado fishing lodge, a private jet, a 200-foot yacht, among other things. The government filed paperwork last year to seize the 100-acre fishing retreat in the Rockies, the Aspen Times report. But it says it is not immediately clear how Brockman's death would affect the government's ability to recover the taxes. It said they're old, okay? And of course, he's survived by his wife and things like that, right? So, with that being said, right, a lot of people are feeling a certain particular way because they saying that Robert Smith cooperated with the government and pretty much, agreed to testify and set up, Robert Brockman, right? So my thoughts on this whole ordeal is I want to give kudos and shout out to Robert F. Smith for doing that, because number one, he's not following some street rule or something like that. He's a civilian, right? And pretty much he, because basically what Robert Brockman was doing was he was basically taking, also he was eating off Vista, you know what I'm saying? Because that's part of the deal, hey, I put this billion up, we're gonna move these funds like this, but then I'm gonna also have equity in this, whoopty whoopty whoop, right? So it sounds to me like Robert F. Smith wanted to get his hands out of his pocket, which sounds like he did. And if the shoe was on the other foot, Robert Brockman would have damn sure told on Robert F. Smith. So I want to congratulate Robert F. Smith for that. Okay, let's give him a round of applause. This guy's a mastermind, right? Like I said, I disagree with the marriage thing, but like I said, we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to break down the science on that. But outside of that, he even back in 2019, believe it was Morehouse College, right, where he paid he paid the student loans for all the college students, right? Yeah, Morehouse College in 2019, he paid 34 million in student loans, right? But some people feel a certain particular way about that, and they'll say, well, he paid that with the money he didn't pay tax, but Europeans do it all day long. You know what I'm saying? At least he took those gains that he got, and he took care of some of the financial aid stuff that the student loan debts that these blacks owe back to the government. You know what I'm saying? So at any rate, man, this guy's a mastermind, man. He's a investor tycoon. He knows how to, like they said, since the 2000s, he's been bringing back an average of a 30% gain, right? So a lot of companies are dealing with him, like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what I'm saying? They got to deal with him, you know what I mean? Because he's able to increase their investments and stuff like that. So I wanted to just take a little time out, man, to speak on this. I think that is profound. This is Israelite Talk TV. We don't just cover, the rap industry and things like that. We cover everything that's going on in the culture, right? So let me know what y'all thoughts is. Is this the first time you guys ever heard of Robert F. Smith? What you guys think about this case, this tax evasion case? Some people feel a certain particular way, but I feel like, hey, he did just right. Because if it would have been, the shoe would have been on the other foot, they would have definitely told on him, right? He'd have been facing trial and going to court and doing all this other stuff, right? It's interesting how, and they're saying that he allegedly committed suicide. I don't know, I can't confirm that, right? But look at people like Bill Cosby, right? Old Bill Cosby went through the trials, even went and did time upstate and back home again, and still straight, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's something, that we got to look at, right? How, our people have been designed to endure and go through a lot of different things, you know what I'm saying? And then we look at people like Robert Brockman. He like, man, listen, man, I ain't even got time. I'm not even dealing with that. He was 81 years old, you know what I mean? So I think it's a good story because it shows us how you can make money, good, legit money, without having to sell your people out. You know what I'm saying? Without having to promote all these fantasies, that's being peddled through the entertainment business, right? And our people are believing this stuff and going out and committing all these crimes because they think this is the way. But Robert Smith is showing us that it's another way. We don't have to commit all of these crimes in order to become successful. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, he was caught up in a tax evasion scheme, but hey, he paid the Department of Justice the money that he was owed, that they said that he owed from that. He paid them. He cashed them out 139 million. Hey, Uncle Sam, I holla at you. So he pretty much righted his wrong. He took care of that. Hey, he good in my book. You know what I'm saying? So salute to this brother. Y'all leave y'all thoughts down at down in the comment section, and I'm signing off here on Israelite Talk TV. Shalom.